Well, now it's time to take a look at the first of our nostalgic features, which focuses on some of the past pirate heroes. Today we take a look at Brian Crutcher, known to his fans as Nipper, and even today still a hero and a legend at Poole Speedway. At 15 years of age, the young Brian Crutcher caught the eyes of the experts of the day. After a few laps around the Matcham's training circuit, he was quickly snapped up by the Poole management of the day, Jeff Bravery and Len Matchan, and immediately scored a hit with the fans, who loved his spectacular style. He was a truly gifted rider.
As a rider, he's a natural. There's nothing else but a natural. I mean, I knew his father when he used to ride on the grass, and the 2 peas in a pod. I can see where it was born into him. He didn't have to learn it, he born into it. It's natural.
Even amongst his colleagues, the respect for Brian was immense.
When I first started racing, I was doing second halves with Brian. Brian was in the team at the time, and I idolised Brian, because to me, Brian was the most natural rider that I'd ever seen in Speedway. And I learnt a lot from Brian.
But in a flurry of amazement, and after just 2.5 seasons, Brian was the centre of a sensational transfer to the glamour club Wembley in May 1953. It was bad news for Poole.
The Poole fans were devastated. They'd got the local lad here who was their pride and joy, and all of a sudden he was no longer with them. And they just lost everything. They thought that he was here for keeps. Many years, but unfortunately it wasn't to be.
I think everyone was devastated when Brian went to Wembley, but personally I didn't blame him, because in those days it was an honour to ride for the great team at Wembley, and I admire him for doing that. And as I say, I just admired him and his racing during my Speedway days.
Now, for the first time, we can reveal Brian's true story as we reveal what it was like for this fresh-faced youngster who was on a Speedway bike for the first time.
Well, I really can't tell you, because everybody told, I was natural probably afterwards now, after many, many years, but I didn't find it very difficult really once I got going, because I had so much support from so many people when I worked in the motorcycle garage. I met, that's where I first met the person who put me onto the Speedway track, Mr. Fred Wright, who came to work there during the winter for the motorcycle firm called Pankers, and that's what I picked up. Then I really got going through Dickie Howard, who took me to Poole Speedway during the season, and I was to clean the dirt off his front wheel and keep his bike clean and clean his glasses, and that's how I really came to ride on Speedway. Then at the garage I worked, there was several people there riding on the grass track. A chap named Titch Young had an OEC Jap that I used to take up the road and ride in the gravel pit during the lunchtime and take the soles off my shoes, and also in shirt sleeves. And that's how I started to ride on Speedway. Of course, my background really, my father was a Speedway rider at Exeter Speedway before the war, and also he and his brother was the one who originally went to Poole and started to build the track, and unfortunately my father got killed before it opened in 1948. Really, that's how my Speedway career started.
At the tender age of 15, it has to be said that success came quickly for you. Within a very short space of time, you were clocking up the fastest times, and indeed in your first year at Poole, you broke the track record.
Well, after so long now, it's a job to reflect back, talking 50 years back, but what I remember, my first ride at Poole, my bike wouldn't start. So, I mean, I was so small at the time that I couldn't ride another bike, so that was it. The next time I rode, I think I came third, if I may, but then the following time I went to ride in the second half, and at that night I think Exeter Speedway was there, and one of the Poole Speedway riders got injured or couldn't turn up, something went wrong, was ill, and they put me in reserve in the races, and I won 3 races in a row. So don't tell me how I done it, but I got off the start and that was it, and I was gone. But I did enjoy it really. It was a life that was my life, speedway racing, right from a young lad. I used to listen to motorbikes, and motorbikes really was my life. I rode a motorbike before I was even eligible to ride one when I was 15 years of age, you know. Naughty boy really on the roads, but I did. In those days one could do it, but young lads can't do it now. Speed racing was really something that I wanted to do, and there's nothing else that that was my life. Nothing else. You know, I lived and dreamed speed bikes, and I lived and dreamed, you know, to be something really good. And of course that's how I dedicated my life. And I suppose if you do that, the young lad, in the end you get the results.
Well, indeed, you did get the results, and success, as I say, it came fast and furious. You became a real star in the Poole lineup. And I think today we're all familiar with the likes of Tony Ricardson, for instance, who's perhaps #1 now. But what did it feel like for you? Because in those days things obviously were quite different. Were you aware of the stardom status that you'd attracted? And what was it like as a young star for Poole Speedway?
Well, what I can look back now, I think I really neglected my ability to be a speed rider. I sort of took it so easy. Though, I mean, I got keyed up and keen as anybody. I mean, sick before you ride and that sort of thing. They tell me, you know, to be good, you've got to be keyed up and feel sick sometimes. I had an outlook in my life that, you know, it was a way also forward in life. You know, I could see myself making some money. You know, I remember my first check, £15, and I never had a bank account, and I just had a little pen in book, you know, and it went from strength to strength, and you know, started earning £60 a week and £80 a week, which is big money. And I sort of didn't like the travelling of speedway racing. I always used to get sick in the car because I couldn't drive, never had a licence. But once I got my own licence and drive cars now, I think, how would you do the miles in such old, what we call old bangers, which I did. But reflecting back on my travelling speed, I had a lot of help really from the other riders. There was times when Jack Cunningham, if anyone remembers Jack Cunningham, Poole, used to take me to Exeter, and I remember going right as far as Glasgow with the Poole Pirates, and 19 hours to get there, with Fred Wright in a Ford V8 van. And I'm thinking back now, you know, arriving there and feeling sick as anything. So I was get car sickness. I still now can't read a paper in the car, so I look back, but I really conditioned myself to it, and in the end I said, right, that's it, you've got to do it, and I done it. Yeah. So.
Indeed you did. Now, a year and a half into your career with Poole, you know, you'd established yourself at the top, and all of a sudden there was a call, and Wembley was calling, and everybody knows now, of course, that it was a great shock to the Poole public, and I guess the real story perhaps has never been told as to the real reason that you went from Poole to Wembley. Tell us in your perhaps perspective, you know, how that came about.
Well, thinking back now as you speak to me, I mean, I could reflect back a long time now. Before the season started, I wasn't on the contract with Poole Speedway, and they wanted me to sign the contract. And I said to my then, can I call him dear friend, treated me like a father, Fred Wright, the chap who made my bike, who built the engine from a scrap engine of Dickie Howard's, and also a Dickie Howard's frame. And Fred's a chap who taught me the right way and the wrong way to ride a speedway bike. And I said to him, well, you know, Fred, you know, if I sign the contract here, maybe, as you said, I realised then that the crowd were coming to Poole Speedway, they want to see Brian Crutcher, a local boy, and all that sort of thing. And I never had a lot of money, and I thought to myself, well, I want a new pickup truck to take bikes, because I didn't want to rely on going with the other riders. It's nice to have your own freedom. And I said to Fred, well, I'm going to see Mr. Matcham and Mr. Bravery. I didn't only see Mr. Matcham at his house in Hague Avenue, Bournemouth. Went to see him, I said, Mr. Matcham, yes, I'm going to sign the contract. I signed the contract, but I want £500 to enable me to buy a new pickup truck to carry the bikes. And his reply was, well, Brian, you know, if we give it to you, we've got it for the rest of the boys. I said, well, Mr. Matcham, I said, you know, I feel that I'm now a local boy and they're all coming to say hello to me. I don't know why I had that feeling, but I knew at the time that they were all backslapping me and said, right, Nipper, do them, get stuck into this, which I did. And Mr. Matcham never replied to it, I'll let you know. But some reason the next day I met, he's become a great friend of mine, the reporter Cyril Hart. And I said, oh, Cyril, back viewing. And then 2 days, 3 days later, had an offer from Wembley Stadium, and Poole took it, and I believe the transfer was something like £2,500 in exchange for another rider. And I got a percentage of the £2,500, which I was very happy with. A lot of money, and it's enough to buy me a pickup truck, I can assure you. And
Certainly 50 years ago, £2,500 was perhaps in the region of £100,000 now.
And another rider in exchange, Buster Brown. But that was a long time ago, and I felt that now that I made the right move. Unfortunately, Wembley closed down after 3 years in 1956, and I came down to Southampton then, and I rode at Southampton until 1960, and then I retired at the age of 26. Asked me why. At the time, I seemed to make a lot of money, and I had a garage, and speedway racing I felt was, I've done what I enjoyed and given me a start in life, and moved on to other things I thought would make me more money, and that's how my life has gone. But I did, and I do still love speedway racing. I owe speedway racing to all of my success.
I know that you still come down to Poole and you occasionally get to watch the Pirates of today, but these days you tell me that you're perhaps more out on the golf course, and you enjoy your motor cars, of course.
Yes, well, in 1960 I started to play golf in about 1958, occasionally, because some of my uncles of the family played, and I got very interested in it, and I joined in 1959 Parkstone Golf Club, and I started to play every Wednesday, so I used to ride Thursday at Wembley, and I you know, got more interested. In the end, I got myself to a very low handicap. Fortunately, I was chosen to play for the county. Then I was captain of the county, and I belonged to a number of golf societies. One was the Variety Club of Great Britain, and I now belong to a society where I'm president, been president for the last 20 odd years. And golf is a really competitive game. It's a competitive speedway, I can assure you. It's an individual game as well. And it's a really lovely sport, and I enjoy it, and it's taking the place in my speedway racing.
Brian, thanks for talking to us. It's been wonderful to meet you, and very much appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us.